Good morning, dear students. Today we will discuss the medial side of the thigh. I am with you today, Dr. Ahmed Samir, Assistant Professor of Anatomy and Embryology. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to list the muscles of the medial side of the thigh and describe their nerve supply and action, describe boundaries and the contents of the adductor canal, describe coarse relations and the branches of the obturator nerve. Firstly, the muscles of the medial side of the thigh. They are arranged in three layers from anterior to posterior. The anterior layer is formed of three muscles, which are pectineus, this one, adductor longus, which is cut here, and the third muscle is gracilis. The second layer, which is the middle layer, is this one, which is adductor brevis. And lastly, the posterior layer is the largest muscle here, which is adductor magnus. All these muscles arise from the hip joint and inserted into the back of femur, except gracilis. Gracilis is attached to the medial surface of the tibia, the upper part, as we said before, which is together as sartorius and semi-tendinosus, which is called SGS, sartorius gracilis and semi-tendinosus. So we have here the five muscles. In this part is the medial side of the thigh. They are called the adductors, which are pectineus, gracilis, and the three adductors, which are longus, brevis, and magnus. All are adductors and medial rotators of the thigh, and some other muscles have extra action, like pectineus, as it is in the anterior compartment in the femoral triangle. It acts like iliacus and psoas major. It has an action flexion of the thigh. Also gracilis, it flexes the leg as attached to the medial surface of the tibia, like sartorius. Also, the ischial part of adductor magnus. Adductor magnus has two parts, pubic part and the ischial part. The ischial part of adductor magnus, it acts as the hamstring muscles extend the thigh. So we have here two muscles. One is pectineus, which is act as flexion of the thigh, as it is like the anterior compartment, and one is the ischial part of adductor magnus. It extends the thigh as the muscle of the posterior compartment of the thigh. All the muscles are adductors and medial rotators. Also gracilis, as it is attached to the tibia, it flexes the leg. All these muscles are supplied by obturator nerve, except you have two exceptions here. Pectineus by femoral nerve, as it has the action of the anterior compartment, and ischial part of adductor magnus by sciatic nerve, as it has some action of the hamstring or the posterior compartment in extension of the thigh. The adductor canal is present in the middle 1/3 of the thigh here. It extends from the apex of the femoral triangle to the adductor hiatus, which is called the opening of the adductor magnus. Its boundaries here is the vastus medialis, which forms the anterolateral wall of this canal, and sartorius muscle here, which forms the anteromedial wall of this canal. The posterior wall or the floor is formed by two muscles, which are adductor longus and adductor magnus. Here we have a nerve plexus, which is called subsartorial nerve plexus. Is formed by branches from the medial cutaneous nerve of the thigh, saphenous nerve and obturator nerve. These plexus supply here this part, the skin over this part, which is the skin over the middle 1/3 of the medial side of the thigh. So this is the boundaries once again, which is the sartorius anteromedially and the vastus medialis anterolaterally, and the posterior wall is formed by the two adductors, which is adductor longus and adductor magnus, which continues downward like this. The contents of this canal is two nerves and two vessels. The two nerves are the nerve to vastus medialis and the saphenous nerve, and the two vessels, which are the femoral vessels, the femoral artery and the femoral vein. Notice here the relation between the artery and the vein. The vein is posterolateral to the artery. And lastly, you have the obturator nerve. It arises from the anterior division of the ventral rami of lumbar 2, 3, and 4 from the lumbar plexus. Notice that the femoral nerve has the same root value, but here it is posterior division. It arises from the posterior division. So you have the obturator nerve from the anterior division, while the femoral nerve from the posterior division. It enters the thigh through the obturator canal and ends by dividing into anterior and posterior divisions. Both are separated by adductor brevis. So the branches we have are from the anterior division or from the posterior division. From the anterior division you have muscular branches to adductor longus, brevis, and gracilis, while from the posterior division you have muscular branches to the pubic part of adductor magnus, as its ischial part is supplied by the sciatic, and also to another muscle which is called obturator externus. You have here from both anterior and posterior division articular branches, from the anterior division to the hip joint, while from the posterior division to the knee joint. And lastly, you have cutaneous branches only from the anterior division, which supply the middle part of the medial side of the thigh, as we said before, the middle 1/3 of the medial side of the thigh, as it shares in the subsartorial plexus together with the saphenous nerve and the medial cutaneous nerve of the thigh. Thank you very much.